Welcome, everyone. Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Topic UFO. In fact, this is a very special episode of Topic UFO. For those of you that have followed the show for some time, you will probably know that my introduction into ufology, the case that turned me in from a standby person to someone that was active in ufology, was the Phoenix Lights and the documentary by the same name. I've wanted to have this person on the show for, 2 years now. And for some reason, I reached out to her not knowing that we are at the 17th anniversary of this case. So very kind of coincidental there. Not sure how that happened. The person I am talking about is Dr. Lynne Kitei, and she is here with us via the phone. Dr. Lynne, are you out there, ma'am?
I am, and thank you so much for having me. I really enjoy sharing the data with your audience, because there is so much mis and disinformation out there that really needs to be cleared up. One of the main reasons I came forward after 7 years of anonymity, after the mass sighting, searching for a logical explanation that to date, 17 years later, I still have not found. If anything, it opened up a whole new world to me, because I knew nothing about the topic, and ultimately in 2004 felt it was really important to share the data and let people decide for themselves, and came forward with the first edition of our book, The Phoenix Lights, A Skeptic's Discovery That We Are Not Alone, and then produced a documentary that you saw, the Phoenix Lights documentary, which has won over a dozen International Film Festival awards. We're so proud, and it's really kind of unheard of for a documentary, especially one of the genre, to be so acclaimed. But we keep growing, and wonderful people are in it and share their stories as well, because the Arizona mass sighting, which has become historic, and it's still unexplained, but it's become historic in the annals, not only of ufology, but human history. There is no other mass sighting where so many people, over 10,000 people, witnessed these anomalous aerial phenomena described as a mile to 2 mile wide, and some even larger in some very credible reports, either these balls of light, orbs, in a V-shaped, equidistant, rock-solid formation that seemed to be attached to something, or actual craft that glided right over people's heads at rooftop level. Some people said they could have thrown a rock at it and hit it. Totally silent. Actually, Rick, some people saw it take off at a tremendous speed, blink speed, did not even displace the air or make a sound. And other people saw these orbs detach from the craft, go out into the environment, and then redock with it later. Incredible technology, to be sure. And if anybody's near a website, near a computer, the website, the Phoenix Lights Network, the phoenixlights.net, is packed with data that is so compelling. Not only my own 35 millimeter photographs, but if you go to the GAP page, GAP, Geospatial Animation Project, you're going to see, because there's so much mis and disinformation out there that it was 1 or 2 events, that it only took a couple hours. We're talking over a dozen hours and 9 different craft, and they're illustrated on the GAP page from after a 12-year compilation from thousands of reports to the National UFO Reporting Center in Seattle, Washington, to then Councilwoman Vice Mayor Frances Barr, which she received over 1,000 reports, as well as Arizona MUFON, Mutual UFO Network, and Village Labs, which was the computer clearinghouse at the time. There were 9 different crafts and they were only put in this study if 2 or more people witnessed the same thing. And, we're talking either a craft that could morph into looking different, and they're very different if you look at the pictures, or from the perspective that the person was standing at the time, or a parade of different craft. And that's actually what the investigators concluded after 12 years, is that there was a parade throughout not only Arizona, but also seen in Nevada, California and New Mexico, because there were multiple things happening at the same time in different areas, whether it was a craft or these orb formations. So there is a lot more to this story that is so compelling and important that I'm thrilled to share it today with your audience.
Well, it seems to me what I find strange is that even after 17 years, there is still so much disinformation out there. Plus, it seems like there are people that are still fixated on a certain sub-event of the entire case. Some people still are hooked on the lights over the mountains. They feel that's the big story. But that's just a small part of it. Right.
A very, very small part of it. Not only that, Rick, but let me interject this, which is really important. There is so much to the story, and we won't have time to really get into all of it, but how it unfolded is very intriguing in and of itself. And if you don't read my book, you really don't know. I kept a very intricate journal, ended up with 750 pages 4 years later, and then condensed the best of what I found the next 3 years. But I actually had a sighting 2 months before the mass sighting, where I caught, and 2 years before the mass sighting, by the way, a very close sighting to our home. And the pictures are posted on the photo page of the PhoenixLights.net website. But 2 months before the mass sighting, and this is very important data, because not only did I capture on 35 millimeter the same exact phenomena in the same exact location that I would also capture on video during the mass sighting, but I captured 6 pictures in a row head-on, turning into a V of this massive mile-wide formation of orbs. And it was so unnerving that I called around, found air traffic controllers the next morning at Sky Harbor International Airport, saw the same thing at the same time, and were alarmed because they appeared over Class B restricted airspace. There's a 30-mile radius around the center of the airport where anything that comes into that airspace, particularly 1,000 feet altitude, as these were, must call into the tower, and no one did. So they took their binoculars, their high-powered binoculars, to look. And what they described were 6 points of light. And you would hear this again over and over again during the mass sighting. Either people saw craft or they saw what the air traffic controllers described as 6 points of light, totally equidistant from each other, massive span over a mile wide, that seemed to be attached to something, but they couldn't quite see what it was attached to, or it had a force field in between, holding them in rock-solid formation, turning against the wind. And one of them was a meteorologist, so we knew what it was talking about. Elevated slowly in synchrony as a unit, and then moved slowly behind South Mountain. And when I asked them, so what was it? There was silence. And one of them said, beats me. And I said, you're air traffic controllers. You're supposed to know what's in our airspace. But the point is that this thing, this object, this anomalous phenomena, went over the mountain, okay? So just because these lights went over the mountain or behind the mountain, it doesn't mean there are flares, and that was the only explanation. And let me just quickly go through this for you, because this is really important. For months, there was no investigation. I mean, we're talking over 10,000 people statewide saw this right over their heads, okay? And some of them looked into these wells and what they call canisters of spinning energy and so forth, and yet there was nothing. There was no explanation. There was no investigation as far as anybody knew until months later, on June 18th, a front-page USA Today article came out announcing our sighting to the world. Before that, it was pretty much in Arizona only. And we were deluged by media from all over the globe. And once I started talking to the witnesses, their descriptions were so detailed and so heartfelt that they, too, were saying, there's no investigation. What's going on here? There's something extraordinary happened. There's no explanation. The very next morning, and this is really telling, the former Governor Symington called a press conference saying that they found the culprit of the lights over Phoenix. And again, it wasn't just lights over Phoenix. This was statewide and beyond for many, many hours. But at any rate, everybody took him seriously. That afternoon, he comes marching out during the press conference, one of his aides in an alien head costume, and made a mockery of the whole thing.
Right.
Which really, not only made a joke. I mean, people couldn't believe it that saw this thing, that he was making a joke out of it. But it really put a lid on it for a bit. And about a month later, and this is really important to note too, the only hard evidence they had from that night, now don't forget that nobody knew I had 35 millimeter, okay? But the only evidence that was out there were the videos. There were a handful of videos. There were a couple, mine included, taken before 10 o'clock, and there were a couple of boomerang videos after 10 o'clock, which have become very controversial for being flares. But be that as it may, about a month later, I get a call after I had phoned every military base, not only before the press conference, but after, inquiring of as high up as I could get from military, and none of them had an answer. They were more interested in seeing my data than giving any kind of explanation. They didn't know. They were just as curious, actually, as some of their conversations in my book. But I get a call a month after the USA Today article came out on July 24th. I get a call from one of the heads of PR at the Air National Guard, and she says, "Oh, Dr. Lynne, I think we know what those lights were back in March." And I was thrilled. I was looking for any logical explanation. I said, "You do?" She says, "Do you believe that nobody in all these months looked at the log for visiting Air National Guard, and the Maryland Air National Guard was in town sending off flares in Operation Snowbird," which I came to learn meant, in military terms, diversionary tactical maneuvers, and it certainly has been a diversion ever since. And if they did send off flares, it would have been in a certain area, and we don't have one witness in 17 years that can describe what flares look like. The true unknowns are very different. But at any rate, I said, well, and she said, so that must be what some people saw. That's exactly what she said. And I said, well, were they in town in January? She says, oh, no. I said, are you sure? She says, absolutely not. So I said, well, I have 35 millimeter photographs of the same exact phenomena in the same exact location, confirmed the morning after in both instances, 2 months before the mass sighting and the morning after the mass sighting, by air traffic controllers at Sky Harbor International Airport as appearing over Class B restricted airspace. And she says, you never told me that. Wait a minute. And then I said, and you're trying to say, and I had educated myself to anything logical, including flares, and you're trying to say that flares that cannot keep a formation, that drift and drop with the wind haphazardly within seconds, have huge smoke trails that are illuminated by the flare itself and are used to illuminate the area around it, which, again, no one described that, traverse the entire state in a rock-solid, equidistant, mile-wide V formation for hours. And she says, I have a call coming in. I'll get back to you. Well, I'm still waiting. Okay. So most people, again, if you don't read my book, you don't know these little inside stories. But that's what happened. And I have to say, after that announcement the next day, front page on the paper, and by the way, I did try to get in touch with the person that was going to release that information the next day, and he says to me that he was on a deadline and that he couldn't meet with me, and I wanted to tell him there's more to the story. Please don't print their flares, because anybody that knew the true unknowns knew that they were not flares. But at any rate, once they came out with that announcement, it was like, okay, if it's flares, if it was military, first of all, why would they go, traverse over people's heads?
Right.
That's very concerning in and of itself. But if it's flares, okay, do it again. I knew that I had photographs not only 2 months before the mass sighting, but in my close sighting 2 years before, right outside our bedroom window, and that's a whole other story. But if you look at the pictures, and again, they're on the photo page of the Phoenix Lights Network website, in the background, in the same spot, are the same phenomena there as well, okay? So I knew that, it happened at least several times. So whoever did this, hey, do it again if it's military. Well, we waited until right before the third anniversary of the mass sighting on March 7th. It was announced that 3 Air National Guards were coming into town to send off flares so everybody could see the Phoenix lights. Now, whether they thought that people would forget or would confuse the issue, which it has continued to do, obviously, but we were ready. with cameras. And if you go onto the news page on the Phoenix Lights Network website, you will see, I think it's the second column down, a CNN Arizona 3 report of what they look like, and it was a joke. I mean, if anything, it confirmed for the witnesses that what we saw definitely were not flares. I mean, they tried to make a triangle. It was upside down. It fell apart immediately. It had huge smoke trails, as flares do. It didn't look anything like the real deal. So, you know, that really confirmed for the witnesses right there that, you know, what we saw was not flares, number one, and they have never been, not only have they never been explained, they've never been reenacted. So to this day.
Wow. Yeah, Dr. Lynne, one question I have for you, two actually. Number one, I think a lot of people saw the video where Governor Symington brought in the masked alien and told people they were being too serious, blah, blah, blah. Of course, he then recanted that after he was out of office and stated, "I'm sorry, but yes, I did see it." Have you?
That was amazing.
Now, have you had a chance to speak with him? Have you had the opportunity to speak with him after that?
I really tried, Rick. I mean, I tried through many different sources, and for whatever reason, he has never communicated with me. I would love to. I just wanted to thank him, really, because to me it was a giant step forward. The more credible people to come forward, and that's another reason that I came forward, not only because I had all this information. I condensed the most credible information I had compiled over 7 years from a 750-page journal into 250 pages, and certainly the data right there is really, really important and worthwhile to take a peek at. But the other side is that I wanted people to know that they're not alone, that the more credible people that come forward, and most things can be explained. I have to say that. Most anomalies can be explained, only a small percentage cannot. But just because we don't have the technology to definitively define what these things are, it doesn't mean they're not real. Right. So to me, I mean, even though I don't know what they are, I know that they are. And it's time we get this topic out in the open, we address it, we accept it, and we study it so we can not only find out who's driving these things, but even more important, move forward in our own evolution, because there is so much more out there that we're not being told, and so much more possibilities, wondrous possibilities out there to learn about, and that's why I came forward. And the other thing is, too, I have also been asked, you know, do I miss medicine? I'm a medical doctor and had a very accomplished career before I left it all behind to do the Phoenix Lights, and have not looked back, and I've enjoyed every second. It's been an incredible adventure. But what was very important to me, not only as a scientist and an educator for over 35 years, I have a company that produces video and workbook curriculums on the reality of vital health issues, and certainly when this fell in my lap, I felt compelled and obliged to first learn about and then share the reality of this vital issue. But people out there that have had an experience, even if it can be explained, it's real to them. Absolutely. And if they don't share it, it festers, and it's not healthy. So it's really, even if it's one person, and if there's somebody out there that just wants to email me from the website, you can contact me and share it. It's very healing and very cathartic. So that's an important part of this as a physician that I needed to come forward, because I experienced it myself, up close and personal. I've been there and I've seen it and I've experienced it. So I certainly can empathize with those that have had an unexplained phenomena experience, which I call it UP. And I get into the connection between all unexplained phenomena in my book. But yeah, it's really important to share and to get this out in the open. Don't you think?
Absolutely. And I tell you, I have met people from just about every walk of life doing this particular program over the last 2 years. And that was one of the things that amazes me the most, is just how many different types of people have had these types of experiences. You know, it's not just Bubba living in the back hills of Arkansas. you know, this stuff is happening on a daily basis. People are capturing it more and more. It's amazing. You know, Dr. Lynne, what I wanted to ask you was the fact that you are an MD. Do you think that helped you as far as people giving you the chance to speak? I've seen you on different news shows and stuff speaking. Do you think that helped you as far as coming into this as a seen, credible person?
Well, I have to say, number one, just going back to Symington, I mean, if I felt that, you know, it was important once I had not only seen what I saw and compiled a 35 millimeter data that I went to extremes to have explained to me, and there is no explanation. They are true unknowns at military and university level. You know, to be able to share that as a professional, and you know, I knew that if I came forward, I knew if I didn't come forward, that it probably was just going to sit on a shelf. And did a lot of soul searching. I did not want to come forward, and stayed really anonymous for 7 years. But ultimately knew in my heart of hearts, how could I, as an educator and a scientist and a physician and an experiencer, not share the data? And I'm not kidding. I mean, most of the time I thought I'm just going to stick it in a drawer, show it to our grandchildren years from now, and ask them what they think. But you know what? It's too important not to share, and that's why, you know, I figured if I can lend a credible voice so people actually look at the data, then I've done my job.
Excellent. Well, I tell you, like we spoke about earlier, we could probably talk about this subject for a couple hours at least. Unfortunately, we don't have that amount of time today. Hopefully, you'll come back and speak with us in more detail. But I wanted to take some time to talk about some of the activities that are planned for the 17th anniversary. I believe you have something going on Sunday, March 16th. That correct?
Absolutely. First of all, I'm thrilled that the Phoenix Lights brought you into all this, and I know that it's opened the minds and hearts of thousands out there, and even millions. I mean, you mentioned that people are out there with their cell phones and capturing things, and one of the most incredible things to me and joyful things is that when I came forward in 2004, the accepted and explanation for the Phoenix Lights, other than the witnesses and investigators, of course, was that they were merely military illumination flares. Now, this many years later, when people all around the world, and it's not just me, it's many people that have come forward and getting the word out there, and people, wonderful people like yourself that share this with the public. Now, when people around the world see similar phenomena, whether it's orbs or triangle V-shaped craft, they look up and say, "Whoa, there's the Phoenix Lights." Well, that's pretty darn cool. And we are celebrating the 17th anniversary Sunday, March 16th, at the Scottsdale Harkin Shea Cinema, with a performance of the documentary, the acclaimed documentary, on the silver screen, which is very exciting for the audience, as well as presentations after. We have Navajo Rangers that share not only this big sighting that they had the day before ours, that they thought would really get news, but of course ours eclipsed theirs, but also there's a lot of activity on the Navajo Range, as there are in other indigenous areas. And we also have a 93-year young French Foo Fighter pilot who was in World War II that actually saw the same phenomena, these orbs around their planes. And he tells about his experience. Each side thought the other side had this advanced spy technology, and it wasn't until after the war that Japan, Germany, and U.S. tried to study these and found out that nobody had this kind of technology, as well as some new surprises and a new witness, and we have a Q&A. It's really an exciting event. For regular ticket prices, it's sold out every year, packed. We have to turn people away, unfortunately, but it is an amazing experience for anybody that joins us, and I hope that people out there just go on the website. The information's there, or call the Harkins Theater, Scottsdale Harkins Theater. But if you can't make it, number one, the documentary, the Phoenix Lights documentary, bonus features, has a lot of this information in there, as well as the documentary itself. Astronaut Edgar Mitchell is in it. We have Governor Symington, a few little clips from him, as well as the book. The book gets into much more of the story, and much more even than the Phoenix Lights, because there's a connection that I found between all unexplained phenomena, whether it's near-death experience, out-of-body experience, unexplained aerial phenomena that have a mystical light associated with the experience. And also, I'm working on a curriculum now, which is what I've been doing for youth for 35 years on vital health issues, but on this issue for 4th to 12th grade. I'll be telling you more about that as we get closer to releasing. That's going to be really groundbreaking. And also, if anybody's on Facebook, we have a Phoenix Lights Network Facebook page where I post updates every week, if not more. So I hope people will join us there. It's pretty exciting stuff, and the fact is that it is what it is. I mean, there is no doubt that our mass sighting is the most documented and most well witnessed mass sighting in modern history, if not all history. So I hope people will take a look at the data and pick up the book, The Phoenix Lights: A Skeptic's Discovery That We Are Not Alone. It's available at libraries, or the best discount actually is at Amazon.com and Kindle.
Excellent, excellent. Well, I tell you, personally speaking, I cannot understand how anyone with normal intelligence could watch the documentary and not at least say to themselves, there's got to be more to this. Whether you cop an attitude one way or another from just watching it, right, you must think, my God, there's something to this.
Well, no, I hear you, Rick, and that's why I did the documentary, because it's a gentle overview of the whole topic, but, focusing on the Phoenix Lights to kind of introduce the public to this topic that aren't educated like I wasn't. I knew nothing about this topic. Yep. And then it's kind of a jumping-off point for the book, and certainly the website, too, the phoenixlights.net, thephoenixlights.net website. If you Google Phoenix Lights, it usually comes up there on top, and it is packed with credible information, and I invite people to take a peek at it and then decide for themselves.
Yeah. Yep. Well, listen, Dr. Lynne, I can't thank you enough for taking time out of your day today. I know that you're just swamped with the anniversary coming up. Again, the activity, the event is on Sunday, March 16th at the Scottsdale Harkins Shea Cinema. And if you're there or around there or can get there, if there's still tickets available, check it out. It sounds like it's quite a popular event.
Oh, it is. I recommend people get advance tickets so they can get in there and join us, because it is an experience. People come as strangers and leave connected. It is an amazing experience just to be there, and we have people that come back every year because of it. It is really, really a fun experience, and it's mostly mainstream, I have to say. That is really very heartening, because whether they're curious, and certainly there's people in the audience that actually saw the Phoenix Lights, and want more information. We have lots of children that come. I have lots of children doing book reports on the book. It is just a really, really neat experience. But there is a lot of information out there on the website and the book and the documentary if people can't make it. And I hope you visit us on Facebook too, on the Phoenix Lights Network page.
Well, excellent. All right. Well, Dr. Lynne, thank you again. And like I say, once the anniversary takes place and things died down, if you could have some time to come back and talk to us some more, that would be great. But again, thank you for your time today.
Well, thank you for letting me share, and keep looking up.
There we go. All right. Very good. Well, Dr. Lynne, you have a great rest of the day.
Thank you. You too. Bye now.
Bye-bye.
the answer is to keep it